Welcome to Conversations with Clint Reilly. I'm Mary Huss, Market President and Publisher of San Francisco Business Times. I'm here with Clint Reilly, founder and CEO of the Clint Reilly Organization, which now includes ownership of the San Francisco Examiner and SF Weekly. Today's topic is the business climate in San Francisco and the Bay Area and growing concerns about the exodus of people and companies out of California and to other states. Clint recently agreed to be the chair of a new statewide business climate coalition, which is an initiative of the Bay Area Council. Welcome, Clint Reilly.
Thank you, Mary. Nice to be with you.
And nice to be with you. So let's get started. So Clint, judging by the headlines locally and nationally of late, many people are ready to write San Francisco's obituary. Is the situation as dire as it sounds?
Well, I think there are problems. I don't want to be a denier that we do have real issues, but I think we're seeing that a lot of these stories are kind of built on fiction. There are problems. Let's acknowledge it. But some of these stories are greatly exaggerated.
Well, you've been through a number of business cycles in the past, including the dot-com boom and bust and the Great Recession of 2008. So how do you see this comparing and what's different this time?
Well, Mary, I bought the Merchants Exchange building in 1995. And the Bay Area was just coming out of a recession at that time. So my early years as an office building owner were very challenging. And then as the 90s progressed, there was a large influx of startup technology companies entering the Bay Area and San Francisco market. And it seemed like every day I was meeting with a new startup who wanted to occupy space in my building. And then, of course, we know there was the whole dot-com movement blew up, and we called it now the dot-com bust. And that was one of the great traumatic moments, I think, for anyone who owned office buildings, because I believe it to be the case that for 18 months after the dot-com bust started in 2000, 2001, there was not a single lease signed in the financial district of San Francisco. So today, during the pandemic, I think if you talk to most people in the real estate market, they tell you that basically the market has stopped. There aren't any deals getting done. There aren't tours. It's actually better than the dot-com bust significantly. But these periodic depressions are part of the ebb and flow of real estate in our country.
So are there things that pulled the city and region through in those difficult times that we might need to be doing now?
Well, I think what was happening in some ways in the 90s, the early 90s, was I think corporations were very concerned about the liberal politics of San Francisco, and they were moving out of San Francisco's high tax environment, very liberal regulatory environment, but they moved, miles away to Bishop Ranch, and San Francisco's misfortune became Alex Mayron's, one of our Bay Area Council leaders, his family's great fortune. So. Actually, what I think was happening in the 90s was that the Bay Area's developing preeminence as the technology capital of the world was beginning to really gather momentum, and it created a power for the Bay Area economy that underpinned the entire economy.
So, what do you think are the 2 or 3 biggest reasons that people and companies leave? And what I really am getting at is, what are the fixes? What are the most critical problems to be solved that could turn this?
Well, first of all, we know that Oracle moved some of its operations to Texas. We know that HPE, the great progenitor company of Silicon Valley, moved also to Texas. We know that Chuck Schwab moved some of their operations. Those of us who care about the economy of the Bay Area are very, very concerned. The Bay Area Council has been a leader in turning attention towards this gathering issue. Now, we think that there are 3 reasons why people are becoming frustrated. First of all, the business climate in California is hostile to companies. Taxes, the threat of the raising the income tax, which is already high at over 13%. To move, the threat of raising that a couple more percent is really angering people. There are legislators who are talking about a wealth tax that's very concerning and intimidating to high net worth families and individuals in the state. Secondly, I think we know that the homeless problem has become an urban problem in San Francisco, in Oakland, in San Jose, in Los Angeles, and in San Diego, but it's also becoming a larger problem in Sacramento and the Central Valley cities of Modesto and Fresno and Stockton. And the third issue, which is just so important, is the basic issue of affordability and housing, of course, housing affordability, high rents, and high housing prices in California are big concerns, not just to individual home buyers who can't afford to live here, but to corporate CEOs who are the stewards of their companies and the stewards of their employees. And they're saying, if my employees can't find an affordable house to buy and can't get into home ownership, but they can do so in Denver or in Texas, Austin. That's a competitive advantage for those states. And obviously the issue of housing is a huge, huge issue for our state, which, has been debated. It's been on the hit lists of every major player in California, but we haven't done anything. And we have to mobilize around this question and make some changes in our state.
So, this has got to be hitting home with you. What's your experience? How does this climate and this exodus, how's it been impacting your business?
Well, yes, Mary, our business has been hit hard by the pandemic. My restaurant, Credo Restaurant, which is 10 years old now, is closed and has been closed for months. Our event business, which we do over 200 major events a year, close to 250 events. We haven't done one event since March 15th. And both of these businesses, we still have a fairly large number of our leadership team who are on the payroll during all this time. And so we've lost millions of dollars in these businesses. It's been very difficult. Our real estate business, we have 5 office buildings and we have well over 100 tenants, and we've had tenants go bankrupt. It's been an unprecedentedly difficult time. Uh, and I see the vaccinations are occurring rapidly, and I think that the vaccinations will gather momentum because it's in Joe Biden and Gavin Newsom's interest to make it happen. We will be reopening probably this year, but no one really knows. December is a long way off. I mean, that's millions and millions of more dollars lost for small businesses, for restaurants, for family companies. So I'm hoping we can get people vaccinated and back to normal by the fourth quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter. At least we can see some revenue.
Back to the companies and people that are leaving, why do you think a company or an individual should think twice about decamping to Austin, Denver, Portland, Florida? I know you have a great employee who moved to DC, and he's still an employee, but that was probably a little tough to take.
Yes.
So what's some, why should they think twice?
Well, we lost one of our best employees who lived in Oakland. Very smart, UC graduate, and he's owned a home, taking his children to a park in Oakland. The children are being harassed by homeless people who were living in the park, and he couldn't get to work because he didn't want to get on public transportation, and so he decided to move his family to Washington D.C. and ultimately change the course of his career. He's still working for us, but he will probably move on. People who have grown up in the Bay Area, as I have, who care about the Bay Area, who love the Bay Area, we've got to stand up and deal with some of the problems that are causing people to leave the Bay Area, and we have to deal with the problems that are causing businesses and CEOs to reevaluate their commitment to the Bay Area. This is the greatest place to live in the world. I've traveled all over the world. I have to say Paris is pretty good, but we live in this incredible place, beautiful climate, a thriving economy, but we have to protect it and defend it, and that's why I agreed to chair this committee that the Bay Area Council is establishing. And Mary, you're the chair of the board and our leader, and Jim Wonderman, who is our president, and we're all committed to kind of the mission of wake up, California, wake up, Sacramento, wake up and realize that there's a problem, and we have to deal with the underlying issues that are causing this problem, which will require leadership, not just from the governor and the legislature, but from us in the business community who depend on this economy for our livelihoods and our company's well-being.
How can a company, another leader, and I know many are, there's quite a bit of interest in this. How can a company or another leader get involved? What's the way that they can best step up to the plate and in this organization?
Our president, Jim Wonderman, is one of the most respected business leaders in California. He's been head of the Bay Area Council for 17 years. He's highly regarded by his fellow business leaders around the state. And Jim has been proactively working on building a statewide coalition. And one of the problems with business in the past has been they've been balkanized, been parochial, regional, and what's happened has been by default, the powerful unions in the state have been able to control a lot of the agenda at the state level. So, however, we're it's almost a cliche, the fifth biggest economy in the world. We're like a nation, we're a country. And just imagine what it means to be the fifth, biggest economy in the world versus Austin, Texas, or Miami. We have a network of companies, capital, banks, real estate, venture capital, and technology, the cloud. We have an unprecedented milieu of powerful business interests in California, the entertainment industry in Southern California, the agricultural industry in the Central Valley. And this behemoth, which is California, has incredible assets that can't be replicated by startup companies, startup places like Miami Beach and Austin. The biggest problem that we have is ourselves. It's the problems that we've allowed to be created in our state, the fact that we're not building housing, the fact that people can't find affordable housing, the things like the homeless problem, which has gone on for 30 years, which seems to be almost worse today than it's ever been in the past. I think, we have to use this time as an opportunity to fix our state and start dealing with our problems. California is a country. It's not a state, it's a country. And we need to have a foreign policy to protect our interests against those that would, try to steal our companies and steal our assets. But we also need to have a domestic policy, which is we need to fix our problems. We do have real problems. And it's time, I think, for us to acknowledge these problems and to use this time as an opportunity to focus on solving them.
Any final words you'd like to add, or just how people can rise up and join the effort?
I started to say, but I didn't really complete the thought. When you realize that we're the fifth biggest economy in the world, and yet in Sacramento, we don't even have a seat at the table. and we're sort of taken for granted, and we're kind of backbenchers. It's a real comment on the business community's inability to organize itself. And so I think one of the most important things that we have to do now, one of the most important parts of our agenda, is to organize the business community in California to speak with one voice on public policy. We need to organize the CEOs of our companies, and we need to get them to contribute significant resources to this effort. I mean, one of the things that happens, the dynamic of politics, is that major unions, whom I've worked with in the past, contribute sizable amounts of money to statewide politics, so that a governor, a senator, a down ballot statewide elected official, a legislator, is very dependent on these large checks written by California Teachers Association, Service Employees International Union, the Building Trades Council. And so these interest groups have outsized influence in Sacramento because business is not united and present. So I think one of our real missions here is to unite this powerful behemoth, which is the country of California, and unite the business interests inside this country to begin to assert themselves in Sacramento with a real seat at the table.
Great. Well, I think we'll wrap it up here, Clint.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you so much, Clint Reilly, and good luck with the examiner. I know it's going to play a big role in hopefully some of the communications that will bring people together to solve these problems.
Right. Thank you.
Anyway, thank you so much. And this has been Conversations with Clint Reilly. And this is the second in a series, and we'll look forward to others in the coming year.
Thank you very much, Mary. Thank you.